The Galactic Concord liked to believe they understood the universe. For thousands of years, their member species had lived in peace, sharing knowledge, technology, and calm diplomacy. War was something they spoke about only in history archives. Violence was something they studied from far away, as if it were a strange illness found in extinct species. So when a new FTL signature appeared on the borders of their space, the Council reacted with excitement, not fear. The Concord Hall buzzed with hopeful voices. For the first time in nearly a century, they would welcome a new civilization. Counselor Kalar, a tall, thin being with shimmering skin, cleared his throat plates and spoke first. "Let us begin preparations. We must greet our new guests with warmth. A new species means new culture, new science, and new friendship." Several members of the council nodded. Their galaxy was wide and full of peaceful stars. They believed any new travelers must share that same calm spirit. Only one counselor, the old scholar Vren, hesitated. Vren had lived long enough to remember the ancient warnings, stories of dangerous worlds. Planets so hostile that life there grew hard and fierce. Most believed these stories were myths, but Vren never dismissed anything. Still, he said nothing yet. The sensor readings arrived only a few hours later. At first, they seemed harmless. A single ship, not too large, drifting calmly at sublight speed toward the Concord's border station. But as the technicians examined the data more closely, their cheerful mood faded. The ship's hull scans confused them. It was thick, far thicker than anything the Concorde would ever build. It carried multi-layered armor plates, radiation shielding strong enough for supernova exposure, and internal supports meant for G-forces that no conquered species could survive. Technician Leora reviewed the data twice before speaking. "Counselors, this craft is reinforced far beyond normal limits. Even the emergency vessels we build for black hole research are not this strong." Vren's eyes dimmed. A species would only build a ship like that if their homeworld forced them to. The council room fell silent. Everyone knew what he meant. A death world, planets marked by endless storms, violent ecosystems, crushing gravity, unpredictable climates, and wild predators. Worlds where life fought tooth and nail to survive. The Concorde had only documented a few such planets, and none had produced advanced civilizations. Until now, Kellar tried to keep calm. "We cannot assume hostility. A strong ship does not mean a dangerous people." "A dangerous people? Yes," murmured Counselor Riva, "but it does mean a people used to surviving things we cannot imagine." As more data arrived, confusion grew. The ship's engines were not only powerful but oddly durable. They could function in radiation levels that would melt most species' spacecraft. The communications array was shielded as if expecting constant solar storms. Even the life support system seemed made for variable environments, temperature swings, pressure shifts, toxic air. "They built this to handle almost anything," Leora whispered. "Or," Vren corrected calmly, "they evolved on a world where almost anything is normal." The council ordered long-range visual scans. When the images appeared on the central holo display, the room grew even more tense. The ship was not beautiful. It was not elegant, like most Concorde vessels. It was solid, practical, and purposeful, designed by minds who valued strength over aesthetics. Dark gray hull, heavy plating, burn marks from old impacts, thick antenna clusters, a forward section that looked like it could ram through meteor fields without slowing down. It was a ship built by survivors. Riva spoke softly. "What kind of world creates travelers like this?" Vren answered without hesitation. "One that tries to kill them every day." Yet the council still believed in the best of all species. They prepared a diplomatic team, rehearsed greetings, reviewed language algorithms, and planned peaceful gestures. They wanted to welcome newcomers with smiles, calm words, and gifts, but their translators struggled. The ship's communication packets were powerful but strange. The language felt rough, filled with sharp sounds and firm patterns. It did not flow like most languages in the Concorde. Still, they decoded enough to understand one important detail. The species called themselves Humans. Kilar practiced the name out loud. Mans. A strong sound. Unpleasant at first, but not aggressive. Vren shook his head slightly. It sounds like a species used to shouting over storms, but the council was hopeful. They believed peace was universal. Their hope, however, began to tremble when an emergency alert suddenly flashed across the room. Leora rushed to the command screen. Counselors, we have detected weapon signatures. A wave of fear rippled through the chamber. What type of weapons? Kilar demanded. Leora double-checked the readings. The data made no sense. The weapons were powerful, extremely powerful, and yet they were not aimed, not charged, not threatening. They were simply part of the ship, passive but incredibly advanced. We believe these weapons are defensive, she explained. Perhaps this species needs them to survive their home environment. Riva blinked in disbelief. A world where you need weapons? Just to live? No one replied. The council had never considered such a possibility. The next hours passed in tense silence. Every detail learned about the human ship only raised more questions. It carried redundant medical scanners 3 times the usual number. Its food stores included emergency rations that could last for months. Its internal temperature cycles varied widely, suggesting the crew could tolerate extreme heat and cold. Its shielding could survive near a star. This was not a species raised in gentle forests or calm oceans. Humans came from a place where danger was constant, where life hardened its children, where evolution rewarded resilience over elegance. The council began to fear not because humans were hostile, but because they were unpredictable. A species that survived danger so naturally might not understand how delicate the Concord worlds were. Finally, the long-range comms crackled. A message came through. A clear voice echoed in the chamber. To any nearby vessels, this is the human starship Resolute Dawn. We come in peace. Requesting diplomatic contact. The room froze. The voice sounded calm, strong, warm. Yet beneath it there was something steady and controlled. Like someone used to facing emergencies without panic. Kilar spoke quietly. They sound kind, Vren agreed, but powerful. Very powerful. The council debated how to respond. Some wanted to limit contact. Others wanted to welcome them fully. But in the end, the Concord's values won hope, diplomacy, and trust. Kilar broadcast a message. Humans of Resolute Dawn. This is the Galactic Concord. We welcome you with open hearts and peaceful intentions. We invite you to dock at Border Station Sita and begin formal relations. The human reply came almost instantly. Thank you. We look forward to meeting you. Those simple words calmed the room slightly, but not completely. Hours later, as the human ship approached the station, thousands of Concord citizens watched from observation windows. The ship grew larger and larger, its reinforced frame reflecting the station lights. Vren stood quietly, studying the ship as it slowed for docking. How strange, he murmured. We prepared for a friend, but I think we are greeting a force of nature. And he was right. The council had no idea what would step out of that ship. They had no idea what humans were. They had no idea what a Deathworlder looked like, acted like, or believed. But they were about to learn, and the galaxy would never be the same. The docking bay of Border Station Sita was silent. Not the normal calm silence of a peaceful star station, but the heavy kind that filled a room before something completely unknown happened. Hundreds of Concord citizens waited behind clear barriers, watching the giant human ship settle into position. The Resolute Dawn looked even more imposing up close. Its hull plating seemed thick enough to resist meteor strikes. The engines glowed a soft blue, but their design suggested they were capable of raw, explosive power. The ship felt like a creature that could survive anything the universe threw at it. Counselor Kilar stood at the greeting platform with the diplomatic team beside him. He tried to look calm, but his shimmering skin changed color rapidly, betraying his nerves. Remember, he whispered to the others. We greet them with peace, curiosity, and respect. Counselor Riva, much smaller and rounder, nodded nervously. I hope they are as friendly as their message said. Scholar Vren simply watched the docking clamps secure the ship. His old eyes were thoughtful, not fearful. "We must assume nothing," he murmured. "But let us hope they mean well." A soft alarm sounded. The human airlock was cycling open. Everyone held their breath. The doors parted, and the humans stepped through. The first thing the Concorde noticed was height. The humans were tall, taller than any species present, walking easily under gravity levels that would crush most visitors. Their posture was straight, their movements steady and balanced, as if they were used to handling much heavier forces. The second thing they noticed was how calm the humans looked. Their eyes were sharp, scanning their surroundings with alertness, but their faces held warm, open expressions. At the front was a woman with dark hair tied back, wearing a simple uniform with the symbol of a rising sun. She stepped forward confidently. "I am Captain Elena Ward," she said, voice firm but friendly. "Thank you for welcoming us." Her words echoed clearly in the translator systems. Kalar stepped forward, bowing slightly. "We are honored to greet you. I am Counselor Kalar of the Galactic Concorde. Welcome to our space." Captain Ward smiled, a human gesture that immediately confused half the council. Some species bared their teeth only when angry or threatening. But the human's smile radiated warmth, not danger. "Your hospitality is appreciated," Ward said. "We hope for peaceful relations and cultural exchange." Her tone was friendly, but again, there was something underneath it. A quiet steadiness. A strength controlled carefully, like someone who carried power but chose not to show it. Behind her, the human crew stepped into the bay. There were 10 of them, each one appearing just as strong, just as self-assured, just as durable. Their uniforms were practical, their boots heavy, and their eyes observant. These were beings shaped by challenge and survival. Riva whispered to Kalar, "Do they always move like this? Like they are ready for danger at any moment?" Kalar whispered back, "Deathworlders probably must." Formal greetings continued smoothly. The humans were polite, respectful, and surprisingly well prepared for diplomacy. They had studied the Concorde's basic customs and even practiced the delicate gesture of peaceful introduction, a slow raising of the hands, fingers relaxed. They did it easily. But their hands, the Concorde noticed, were built for strength. Humans had bones thicker than most species, and skin that looked like it could withstand injury that would incapacitate others. Still, their presence was not frightening. Instead, it was strangely reassuring. They radiated a sense of capability, a feeling that if something went wrong, they could handle it. Captain Ward spoke again. "We are honored to be here. Humanity has long wished to meet our galactic neighbors." Vren stepped forward. "You traveled far. We hope your journey was peaceful?" Ward laughed softly. "Peaceful enough. We had a few complications, but nothing serious." "Complications?" Riva asked. Ward listed them casually. A solar flare storm, a meteor field, and a micro-singularity drift. But our ship handled them fine. The entire Concorde delegation froze. A solar flare storm would destroy a normal ship. A meteor field would damage most shields. A micro-singularity drift was considered a no-go zone for travel. Yet the humans spoke of these dangers as if they were minor inconveniences. Vren whispered in awe. "They traveled through things we consider disasters, and they call it nothing serious." The others exchanged nervous glances. Humans truly were from a world of extreme challenge. The humans were invited into the station's main hall, where diplomatic tables were set with refreshments from dozens of species. The Concorde members watched closely as humans examined the food. Ward scanned the dishes, reading the labels carefully. "We appreciate the gesture, but our biology is sensitive to many alien chemicals. We brought our own rations to avoid any accidents." Kellar nodded. He respected their caution, but what happened next shocked everyone. One of the human engineers, Lieutenant Noah Hale, accidentally brushed against a heated container of vapor crystals, a Concorde delicacy served warm. The crystals were extremely hot, capable of burning most species. Hale barely flinched. He simply said, "Oh, that's warm," and moved his hand away. The Concord stared in disbelief. If one of them had touched that dish, they would need immediate medical treatment. Humans, it seemed, had skin that tolerated heat levels far above the Concord norm. Riva whispered. They treat heat like we treat warm air. Kellar nodded, stunned. Their world must be very dangerous. The realization deepened. As the meeting continued, the humans began asking questions, not aggressive ones, just curious, intelligent, and practical. How far do your trade routes reach? What is your emergency response protocol? How do your ships handle system failures? What natural threats are common in this region? The Concord members struggled to answer. Many of the threats humans asked about simply didn't exist here. Concord space was stable, peaceful, and gentle. Ward seemed genuinely impressed. It must be wonderful, she said, to grow in a galaxy where the universe is calm. You mean, your universe isn't calm? Riva asked. Ward exchanged a small smile with her crew. On Earth, the environment can be harsh. Storms, quakes, predators, diseases, volcanic activity, extreme seasons, and sometimes all in the same region. Riva nearly fainted. One human world had more natural danger than most galaxies. Suddenly, the myths about Deathworlders didn't sound like myths at all. But the strangest moment came when the station's reactor malfunctioned. A minor energy fluctuation shook the hall. Lights flickered. A warning siren sounded. For Concord species, this was alarming. They reacted with panic and retreated from the chamber. But the humans? They didn't even startle. Captain Ward looked around calmly. Should someone check that? Lieutenant Hale was already on the move. On it, Captain. He sprinted not with fear, but with practiced efficiency toward the reactor room. The Concord technicians followed behind, struggling to keep up. In the reactor chamber, Hale assessed the situation, grabbed a manual override handle, and pulled it with raw strength. The Concord engineers stared. Their species needed powered tools to do the same task. When the energy flow stabilized, Hale simply wiped his forehead and said, "That should do it." 8. The head technician looked at him with wide eyes. How did you pull that? That handle requires 3 mechanical assists, Hale shrugged. Just took some effort. The rumor spread through the station faster than light. The humans fixed the reactor with their bare hands. The Concord no longer saw humans as mysterious travelers. They saw them as beings forged by a world that shaped legends. By the end of the day, the Council understood something clearly. Humans weren't dangerous because they wanted to be. Humans were dangerous because the universe had forced them to become strong. Yet every action they took was calm, polite, and thoughtful. Kellar whispered to Vren as the humans toured the station. They have great power, but they use it gently. Vren nodded slowly. That, he said, is the most impressive thing of all. Little did they know the galaxy would soon need that strength. Because something ancient was awakening, and only a species like humanity could face it. The days after the humans' arrival were filled with excitement. The Concord learned quickly that humanity was far more than they expected. They weren't just another species trying to fit into a peaceful galaxy, they were survivors. Creatures built to handle chaos, to adapt, and to thrive under the harshest conditions. But the excitement didn't last long. A shadow was creeping across the peaceful space of the galactic Concord. A shadow that no one could ignore. It started with a strange anomaly, an unexplained energy spike on the edge of the Concord's trade routes. At first, it was just a few irregular pulses, easily dismissed as a glitch in the monitoring systems. But then came more spikes, and then a strange gravitational pull that began to distort nearby star systems. Within hours, reports flooded the central hub. Stars in the region were dimming, one by one. The energy surges were growing stronger, more focused. It wasn't just a glitch. Something was out there. The council held an emergency session. What are we dealing with? Kellar asked. Pacing in front of the holographic map of the galaxy, Vren, his face grim, pointed to a section of space that had been marked off limits for centuries. It's the Graveyard Nebula. We've always avoided it because of the strange gravity patterns and radiation emissions. But now, it seems that something inside that region is awakening. The Graveyard Nebula wasn't just any abandoned area of space. It was a place where a long-lost civilization once thrived. But their technology was far too dangerous. Some ancient weapons, like the star-devouring creatures, were said to lie dormant there. It was a forgotten region, and the Concorde had left it undisturbed. Until now. The energy surges were coming from that very place. "We need to act quickly," Counselor Riva said. "Our trade lanes, our colonies, they could be in danger." "But how?" Kalar asked. "What can we do? We can't even get close without our ships being torn apart by gravitational waves." Vren was quiet for a moment, his ancient eyes looking distant. "There is only one species known to survive conditions like this. One species that has the strength, the will to endure these kinds of threats." Kalar's eyes widened. "You mean?" Vren nodded gravely. "Humanity." Captain Elena Ward and her crew were sitting in their quarters aboard the Resolute Dawn, reviewing mission logs when the emergency call came through. "We need you," Kalar's voice echoed over the comms. Ward's eyes narrowed. She could sense the urgency. "Understood. We'll be there." Within hours, the human crew was prepared. They boarded their ship, and the Concorde leadership took them to the edge of the Graveyard Nebula. When they arrived, the vast, dark expanse of the nebula spread out before them, swirling with energy. A dozen other Concorde ships had already gathered, their sensors scanning for any sign of the threat, but all they saw were the strange pulses, the signal of something vast and ancient. Ward stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn. Her eyes locked onto the shimmering data streaming across the consoles. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. "Captain," said Lieutenant Hale, "the gravity distortions are growing. Our shields are holding, but I don't know how long they'll last." "Understood," Ward replied. She looked out the viewport, her mind racing. "What are we dealing with out there, Hale?" He hesitated before answering. "We're not sure. The data from the last probe was incomplete. But whatever it is, it's huge. It's like a black hole. Only it isn't." "Something artificial?" Ward asked. "Possibly," Hale said. "But if it is, it's far older than anything we've seen." Ward didn't need more information. They had no choice but to go deeper into the nebula. The Resolute Dawn and the fleet of Concorde ships carefully navigated the nebula's chaotic gravity fields. The deeper they went, the more intense the surges became. The Concorde ships were built for stability, but the strain was showing. As they crossed deeper into the nebula, a new anomaly appeared on their scanners. A massive, dark shape emerged from the swirling energy, a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. It was enormous, its hull blackened and scorched by unknown forces. Its size dwarfed even the largest Concorde ships, stretching across a vast span, its structure barely holding together. The sheer mass of it was a gravitational anomaly on its own. "It was impossible. It looks like a weapon," Captain Ward said, her voice barely above a whisper. She had seen plenty of battle wreckage in her career, but nothing like this. An ancient weapon? Maybe. Vren's voice crackled over the comms, full of dread. "The ship is alive. It is not simply a weapon, but a creature. A death machine." Kalar's voice was sharp. "What do you mean, a creature?" "There is no technology alive like this," Vren continued. "This is something ancient, something biological. The creatures that built it, whatever they were, used their world's death as the foundation of their power." A shiver ran through the crew of the Resolute Dawn. Ward made a decision. "We can't just leave it here. We have to stop it before it awakens fully." The Concorde ships hesitated. They were built for exploration and diplomacy, not warfare. But Ward knew this wasn't a situation where diplomacy would work. This was survival. "The Resolute Dawn can get close," Ward said. "Our shields are tougher, our crew more capable. But we'll need your help." Kalar agreed reluctantly. "We will provide all necessary support. But you must act quickly." With no time to lose, the human crew deployed a small team to board the ancient weapon ship. The team, wearing advanced pressure suits, made their way through the asteroid field surrounding the massive craft. The gravity distortions were getting stronger, pulling them in from every direction. But the humans adapted quickly, using tethered lines to stay connected to the ship and each other. The ship's surface was covered in deep cracks, like the skin of some long-dead beast. The air was thin, filled with strange electromagnetic pulses that made the atmosphere crackle. It felt as though they were walking through a place that shouldn't exist. "Be careful," Ward's voice came through their comms. "We don't know what's inside." The team made their way to a massive door. It had no obvious controls, just a large, deep-set slit running down its length. Lieutenant Hale approached it cautiously, using a manual override tool to force the door open. The inside of the ship was a nightmare. The walls were covered in strange, organic-looking materials, pulsating with dim, sickly light. The air was thick with tension. It felt like something was watching them. "Stay sharp," Hale ordered. They moved down the corridor, weapons drawn, scanning for any signs of life or whatever passed for life inside this place. They finally reached a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. The center of the room was filled with a large, glowing core, pulsing with energy. "This is it," Hale said. "This is what's causing the disturbances." Just then, the core began to hum. A deep, resonating sound filled the room, and the walls around them began to shake. Ward's voice came through the comms, filled with urgency. "Hale, get out of there. We don't know what this thing is capable of." But it was too late. The ship the creature was awakening. The crew had only moments before they would be swallowed by its power. And even with all their strength, the humans knew that no one, not even Deathworlders, could survive what was coming next. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Captain Ward clenched her fist. "Prepare for emergency retreat." But it was already too late. The energy began to explode outward, tearing apart everything in its path. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Resolute Dawn was shaking violently as Captain Elena Ward held tightly to her command seat. The ship's hull groaned, and alarms screamed as the energy pulses from the ancient weapon ship spread through the surrounding space, disrupting everything in their path. The humans and the Concord fleet had only moments before the full force of the energy destabilized the surrounding systems. Ward's crew scrambled to respond, working with the Concord engineers to stabilize the ship. The human officers were used to handling pressure, but nothing could prepare them for the sheer scale of the threat they now faced. "Captain!" Lieutenant Hale's voice crackled through the comms. "We need to get out of here. The gravitational waves are tearing our ships apart." Ward's knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of the console. "I know. But we can't just leave it like this. We have to stop it before it wakes fully." Kalar's voice came over the comms, calm but filled with concern. "Captain Ward, this force is unlike anything we've faced. The entire region is destabilizing. If you can't disable it now, we risk the entire Concord." Ward's mind raced. They didn't have time to fight the massive weapon ship in traditional ways, especially with their shields being strained to the limit. There had to be another option. "We don't have the luxury of time," she muttered, speaking to herself. Then, her eyes widened as an idea came to her. "Lieutenant Hale," Ward barked, "prepare the FTL engines. We're going to try something." Hale hesitated, but quickly understood what Ward was planning. "Are you serious? With the ship in this condition? We don't have a choice," Ward replied, her voice cold and resolute. "We're going to have to use a hyper jump. But we need to make sure the weapon stays where it is. This is our only chance to trap it." Hale's eyes narrowed. "Understood. We'll need a powerful pulse to counter the gravitational waves long enough to make the jump. We can't afford to fail." "Make it happen," Ward ordered. She turned to the rest of her crew, giving them a determined look. "Prepare for a rough ride. We're about to make history." As the Resolute Dawn shifted into position, Captain Ward watched the colossal, ancient weapon ship pulse in front of her. It loomed in space, like a sleeping titan. A wave of radiation surged out from the ship, destabilizing the surrounding systems. In the distance, the Concord fleet was still trying to escape the waves of energy. Ships were struggling to break free of the gravitation, and some were already beginning to buckle under the strain. If they didn't act quickly, the entire fleet would be lost. "Now," Ward commanded. Hale pushed the button, sending an enormous surge of energy through the ship's engines. The force sent shockwaves through the Resolute Dawn as the hyper-jump sequence activated. The ship began to distort, bending space around it. But something went wrong. The weapon ship reacted. A pulse of energy erupted from its core, stronger than anything the humans had predicted. The gravitational forces shifted again. This time, pulling the Resolute Dawn in faster than anticipated. The ship's crew struggled to hold on as the pressure built. "Captain, we're being pulled in," Hale shouted, his voice tight with strain. Ward gritted her teeth. "Hold on. We're almost there." The energy was too strong. The Resolute Dawn was caught in the gravitational pulse. Ward's heart raced as the ship lurched forward, struggling against the pull. The moment they crossed the event horizon, the ship was torn from real space and thrust into the void of a jump. For a second, everything went dark. Then the ship exploded out of the jump, and the crew was thrown to the deck as the Resolute Dawn slammed back into regular space. "We did it," Hale said breathlessly, his voice filled with disbelief. "But where?" Ward slowly got to her feet, wiping blood from her lip. Her eyes scanned the sensors, and she let out a relieved breath. "We're clear. We made it. We're far enough from the nebula. We're safe for now." The crew, bruised but alive, began to assess their surroundings. They had jumped farther than they had ever intended, but they had done it. The weapon ship was still far behind them, stuck within the gravitational pull of the Graveyard Nebula, but their relief was short-lived. Back in the Concorde fleet, Kalar watched the situation unfold with a heavy heart. The Resolute Dawn had led them out of the danger zone, but the cost was evident. Concorde ships had been damaged beyond repair, and the region of space surrounding the nebula was still unstable. "We must regroup," Kalar said, his voice low. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. We cannot allow this weapon to awaken again." But the damage had been done. The weapon was still alive. And it wasn't just a weapon anymore, it was a force of nature. One that no one had the resources or knowledge to fight directly. A week passed before the Resolute Dawn finally returned to Concorde space, carrying the weight of the mission's success and failure. The humans had trapped the weapon ship in the nebula, but the ship was not destroyed. It was dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken again. Ward's crew was exhausted, but they had accomplished what no one else could have. They had trapped a threat that had been dormant for millennia. Yet, that threat still loomed over them. Kalar met with Ward privately in the station's briefing room. "You've saved us," Kalar said quietly, his voice filled with respect. "Your people have done what no one else could." Ward shook her head. "We've only delayed it. The weapon is still out there, and it's only a matter of time before it tries to escape." Keller thought for a moment. "Then we must prepare for that time. We must strengthen our fleets and our alliances. We will need your people by our side." Ward met his gaze, and for the first time since arriving in Concorde space, she truly understood the full impact of humanity's presence in the galaxy. "You'll have our help," Ward said. "Humanity will stand with the Concorde. We're not just visitors here anymore. We're part of this galaxy now." Kalar smiled faintly. "We never thought of you as visitors. We thought of you as our new guardians." Ward looked out the window at the stars, her heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. The galaxy was a vast, unpredictable place, full of wonders and dangers alike, but with humanity's strength and resolve, perhaps, just perhaps, they could face whatever came next. The threat from the Graveyard Nebula was not over, but humanity had made its place in the galaxy. The Concorde had found new allies, and for the first time, they understood what it meant to face the universe with true strength, and it was a strength that the galaxy had never seen before.